My hands were shaking so much that I almost dropped the small black purse on my lap. People were crying around me. Some were loud, some were quiet, some were only pretending. The church was full, and the air felt heavy, like rain was hiding inside the walls. They said this day was for goodbye. They said my husband, Paul, was inside the coffin at the front of the church. They said I should be strong. Before we continue, please comment where you are watching from and subscribe so you can hear more stories like this. I sat in the first row like a statue, dressed in black, my face dry even though my chest felt like it was cracking. I am old now. People call me Grandma Mercy because of my age and because I once helped everyone on our street. But that day, I did not feel like a helper. I felt like a woman who had lost the last safe place in her life. The priest was speaking. I could hear his voice, but the words sounded far away, like he was talking from inside a well. Then something happened that made my blood turn cold. In the middle of the crowd, between two tall men in dark suits, I saw a face I knew better than my own. Paul, my husband, alive. He was standing near the back, partly hidden behind a pillar. His hair was combed the same way I used to comb it for him when he was sick. His eyes were the same eyes that once looked at me with love, and later with secrets. He looked straight at me. And he smiled. Not a big smile. Not a happy one. A small, sharp smile. Then he lifted his hand and put one finger to his lips. Like this, be quiet. Do not speak. Do not scream. Do not tell anyone you see me. My mouth opened, but no sound came out. My heart hit my ribs so hard it hurt. I blinked once, thinking maybe I was dreaming. But he was still there. Then my phone buzzed in my purse. It buzzed again. I pulled it out with shaking fingers, my eyes still locked on him. A text message flashed on the screen from a number I did not know. Run. They're watching us. I looked up again. Paul was gone. And at the same time, I felt something else. A feeling, like someone behind me was staring into the back of my head. I did not turn around yet. I did not breathe, because I knew, in that moment, that my husband's funeral was not a funeral at all. It was a trap, and I was sitting right in the middle of it. If you were me, what would you do? Would you stand up and scream? Would you run? Or would you stay quiet and pretend you saw nothing, just to stay alive? My fingers gripped the phone so tight my knuckles turned white. I forced my face to stay calm, even though my stomach was twisting. Because if they were watching, I could not let them see fear. I slowly placed the phone back into my purse like nothing happened. Then I folded my hands like a good widow. Like a good old grandma. Like a woman who had no idea her dead husband was alive. But inside my head, everything was screaming. And that is where my story truly begins. I will take you back to the morning they told me Paul was dead. That morning started like any other morning. The sun came in through my curtains. The birds made noise outside my window. My knees hurt as usual. I stood up slowly, holding the edge of my bed like I always do, and I whispered a short prayer. I had been married to Paul for 41 years. 41. That is a long time to share a house with someone. A long time to learn their steps on the floor, their cough, their moods, their little lies. Yes, lies. Because no marriage is perfect. Not mine, not anyone's. But I thought our lies were small ones. I thought we were just old people trying to live quietly. I was wrong. Paul and I lived in a small town where everyone knows everyone. If you sneeze today, someone will ask you tomorrow why you sneezed. People smiled at us because we looked like a good couple. Paul was a respected man. He was smart. He spoke well. He always wore neat clothes. He loved shaking hands with important people and giving long speeches at community meetings. People called him Chief Paul, even though he was not a real chief. They used that name because he liked being seen as a big man. I did not mind. I was the quiet one. The one who stayed home, cooked food, and tried to keep peace. But in the last year, Paul had changed. Not in a loud way. In a small way that only a wife can notice. He started to take phone calls outside. He started locking a small drawer in our room. He started coming home late and saying, meeting. He started waking up at night and sitting up in bed like he heard something. Sometimes he would look at me with a face that seemed sorry. And then he would quickly look away. I asked him once, Paul, what is going on? He smiled and touched my shoulder and said, Mercy, you worry too much. It's just life. But I saw fear behind his smile. Real fear, not the kind you get when you forget where you put your keys. The kind you get when you know danger is coming. 2 weeks before they said he died, something happened that I did not tell anyone. It was late evening, and I was peeling yam in the kitchen. The power went off, like it always does. I lit a small lantern. Paul was in the living room, speaking on the phone in a low voice. At first, I did not listen. I do not like listening to people's calls. But then I heard one sentence that made me stop peeling. Paul said, Please, give me more time. I did what you asked. Just give me more time. His voice was not proud. It was begging. I leaned a little closer, still in the kitchen. Then I heard a different voice coming from the phone, loud enough for me to catch a few words. Time is finished. Paul swallowed hard. I will fix it, he said quickly. I will fix everything. Then he said, Please, don't touch my wife. My hands froze. Don't touch my wife. Why would anyone touch me? I stepped back from the doorway, my heart pounding. Paul ended the call and stood very still for a moment. Then he turned and saw me. Our eyes met. He tried to smile, but it did not reach his eyes. What's wrong? He asked. I wanted to say, I heard you. I wanted to say, who is that? I wanted to say, what have you done? But something in his face told me to stay calm. So I lied. I said, nothing. The lantern smoke is making my eyes water. Paul nodded slowly. And that night, he did not sleep. He lay beside me, staring at the ceiling, like a man waiting for a knock on the door. After that, I started paying attention in a way I had not done in years. Not because I wanted trouble. Because I wanted safety. When you get old, you stop chasing drama. You want peace. But peace does not come when secrets are living in your house. One afternoon, I went to sweep our bedroom while Paul was out. I saw the small locked drawer again. It was under his side of the bed, the side he always told me not to touch because it was messy. That day, my hands moved before my brain could stop them. I pulled the drawer out. It was locked. I shook it gently. Something inside rattled. Paper. Maybe money. Maybe something else. My heart beat faster. I looked at the door, half expecting Paul to burst in. I did something I had never done before. I took a hairpin from my head and tried to pick the lock. I had watched someone do it once on television. I did not know if it would work. But after a few tries, I heard a soft click. The drawer opened. Inside, I found a brown envelope, thick and heavy. And under that envelope, I found a second phone. Not his normal phone. A smaller phone, the kind people use for secret calls. My throat went dry. I opened the envelope first. Inside were photographs. Not family photos. Not happy photos. They were pictures of men standing with Paul in places I did not recognize. Some were in suits. Some looked rough, like they lived a hard life. There was also a picture of Paul holding a black bag. And there was a picture of a car with a license plate number clearly shown. On the back of one photograph, someone had written in pen. Payment pending. I did not understand everything, but I understood enough. Paul was mixed up with people who wanted money. Or worse. I held the photos with trembling hands and then I heard a sound that almost made me faint. The front door opened. Paul was home. I quickly shoved everything back into the drawer, locked it as best as I could, and slid it under the bed. I stood up and started folding clothes like a woman who had been doing it all day. Paul entered the room and looked at me. He looked tired, older than his age. He asked, Mercy, have you been under the bed? My heart nearly stopped. I forced a small laugh. Under the bed. Paul, why would I go under the bed? My back cannot even bend like that again. He stared at me for a few seconds, like he was searching my face. Then he nodded and said softly, Good. Just, good. And he walked out. That night, I could not sleep either. Because I started to wonder if Paul was not only in trouble, but if I was now part of it. Sometimes, when adults say, don't worry, it is because they want to protect you. But sometimes it is because they want to use you. I had to decide what kind of man my husband had become. The next day, a woman came to our house. She was young, maybe 30, wearing a neat dress and a serious face. She said her name was Lydia. She told me she worked at a local office that helped with community development. That sounded like a lie. She did not come with papers. She did not come with a file. She came with only a handbag and sharp eyes. Paul welcomed her like he knew her too well. Lydia, he said with a forced smile. You were early. I can't be late, she replied. Not for this. I offered her water, because that is what I do. She took it and did not drink. She only held the cup. She looked at me and said, Madam Mercy, you have been married to Paul for a long time. Yes, I answered carefully. She nodded, like she was counting something in her mind. Then she said, some people think old women do not notice things. Her words felt like a slap. Paul cleared his throat. Lydia, he warned. But she kept looking at me. I just want you to know, she said, sometimes, when a storm is coming, the safest thing is to stay inside and keep your windows closed. I did not answer. Paul laughed a strange laugh and said, you see. Lydia likes proverbs. Lydia stood up. She finally took one sip of water, then placed the cup down. She leaned close to Paul and said in a low voice, but not low enough, the deadline is near. Paul's face tightened. Lydia walked out without saying goodbye. When she left, Paul stood in the living room for a long time. Then he turned and said, Mercy, if anything ever happens, promise me you will do exactly what I told you. I asked, what do you mean? He came close and held my hands. His hands felt cold. He said, if anyone ever tells you to go somewhere, don't go. If anyone asks you questions, don't answer. If anyone offers you help, don't take it. I pulled my hands back. Paul, I said, you are scaring me. He nodded and whispered, good. Fear keeps you alive. That was the day I realized something important. When a person who loves you starts talking like that, it means danger is real. That night, I packed a small bag without telling him. Just clothes, my ID, a little money, and my old phone charger. I hid the bag under my kitchen sink. I told myself it was only for, just in case. But deep down, I knew I might need to run. 2 days later, Paul went out early and did not return. At first, I was not worried. He often stayed out late now. But as the sun went down, the fear in my chest grew. Then, around 9 p.m., someone knocked on my door. I opened it and saw 2 men in plain clothes. They did not smile. They showed me something quickly, like an ID card, then took it back before I could read it well. One of them said, Madam Mercy. We need to talk about your husband. My legs became weak. I held the door frame. What about him? I asked. The other man said, there was an accident. I said, what kind of accident? He looked past me into my house, like he was checking who else was inside. Then he said, he is gone. Gone. Such a short word, but it can break a whole life. I remember making a sound, like a small animal sound, and then I sat on the floor. The men did not come in. They only stood there and watched me. That was the first strange thing. If your husband dies, people usually comfort you. These men did not comfort me. They watched. Then one of them said, you will be called tomorrow for details. Don't leave town. Don't leave town. I repeated. He nodded. Don't leave, he said again, and then they walked away. I stayed on the floor for a long time. My mind was spinning. Paul was dead. How? Where? Why were those men so cold? And why did they tell me not to leave town? I forced myself to stand up. I walked to the bedroom and sat on Paul's side of the bed. I stared at the locked drawer. I stared until my eyes hurt. Then I did something brave, or maybe foolish. I pulled out the drawer and opened it again. This time, I did not bother to lock it back. I took the second phone. I turned it on. It had no password. That was also strange. On the screen, I saw one message already open, like it was the last thing he read. It said, funeral will be Friday. Stay quiet. I could not breathe. Funeral will be Friday. That message was sent before those men came to tell me he was dead. How could someone plan a funeral before he even died? My fingers shook as I scrolled. There were many missed calls from unknown numbers. And one saved contact name. Lydia. I pressed the call button before I could stop myself. It rang once, twice, Then someone answered. Hello. A woman's voice said. Lydia, I whispered. It's Mercy. There was a pause. Then Lydia said, very calmly, do not call this number again. Why? I asked. My husband, they said he is dead. Lydia's voice became colder. He is safer dead than alive, she said. Then she hung up. I sat there in the dark with the phone in my hand. He is safer dead than alive. What did that mean? Was Paul hiding? Was he running? Was he already killed? And she was speaking in riddles. I did not know. All I knew was this: I was not being told the truth. And when you are not being told the truth, you are not safe. The next day, people started coming to my house with sympathy faces. Women from the church brought food. Men came to help with arrangements. Everyone said, be strong, Mama. But some of them looked at my house too much. They looked at my windows. They looked at who came in and out. They asked strange questions. Did he leave any money? Did he say anything before he went out? Was he afraid of someone? I answered as little as possible. I remembered Paul's words, fear keeps you alive. Then the day of the funeral arrived. The coffin was sealed. They said his body was not in good condition. They said we should not open it. I wanted to see him. I begged. But the men in charge said, no. One of them said, respect the dead. But his eyes were not kind. They were warning eyes. So I sat in the church, wearing black. And I tried to accept what I could not understand. Until I saw Paul in the crowd. Until he smiled. Until he warned me to be quiet. Until the text message came, run. They're watching us. And now, in this very moment, I was still sitting on that front row. Still alive. Still acting normal. But my mind was racing like a car with no brakes. I needed to leave. But if I jumped up and ran, they would chase me. If I stayed, they might grab me when everyone went outside. I needed a plan. A quiet plan. A grandma plan. I slowly lifted my eyes and scanned the crowd without turning my head too much. That is when I saw something that made my stomach drop. Two men in dark suits were standing near the church door. They were not crying. They were not praying. They were watching the room like security. And one of them was watching me. He raised his hand slightly and touched his ear, like he was speaking to someone through a small hidden device. Then he looked at the other man and nodded toward me. My breath caught. They were not here for Paul. They were here for me. My fingers slid into my purse again. I held my phone, keeping it hidden under the cloth. I typed with trembling thumbs, pretending I was just holding my purse. Who are you? I sent the message to the unknown number. The reply came quickly, like the person was waiting. Don't look around. Walk out like you're going to the toilet. Now. My throat went dry. Walk out now. But the men were at the door. If I walked toward them, they would stop me. My mind screamed, but I forced myself to breathe slowly. Then I did something small and normal. I raised my hand and dabbed my eyes with a tissue, like I was finally crying. People saw and nodded with pity. Good. Let them think I was just a sad widow. I leaned toward the woman sitting beside me, my neighbor Auntie Rose, and whispered, I need to use the toilet. Please hold my purse for a moment. Auntie Rose held my arm gently. Take your time, Mercy, she whispered. I stood up slowly, like an old woman with weak knees. I kept my face down. I began to walk, not toward the main door, but toward the side aisle. The church had a small side door near the choir area. Most people did not use it. I prayed it was open. Step by step, I moved. The priest's voice continued. The crowd stayed seated. I could feel the eyes on me. I could feel the men at the front shifting slightly. My heart pounded. Then, as I reached the side aisle, I heard a chair scrape behind me. Someone stood up. Not Auntie Rose. A man. Footsteps followed. Not fast yet, but following. I did not turn. I kept walking slowly, pretending I did not notice. I reached the side door. It was closed. My hand touched the handle. Locked. My stomach dropped. I heard the footsteps behind me get closer. Then a voice, low and sharp, spoke right behind my shoulder. Madam Mercy. I froze. Because I knew that voice was not kind. And I knew that whatever was coming next was not going to be small. I slowly turned my head just a little. Two dark suits stood behind me. One smiled. Not a friendly smile. A warning smile. He said, "We need to talk. Now." And in that moment, I realized the text message was right. They were watching me, and they were close enough to grab me. I did not know if I would make it out of the church alive. Chapter 2. The man in the dark suit smiled like we were old friends. But his eyes were not friendly. They were flat, like stones. "Madam Mercy," he said again, "we need to talk. Now." The other man stood a little behind him, blocking the aisle. He looked left and right, watching who might be looking at us. He kept his hands in front of him, but I could tell he was ready to grab me. My knees felt weak, not because I am old. Because I understood something clearly. These men did not want a simple talk. They wanted control, they wanted silence, and they wanted me away from everyone, where no one could help. I forced a small smile, the kind old women use when we do not want trouble. "Oh," I said softly, "is it about the funeral arrangements?" I was just going to the toilet. The first man leaned closer, like he wanted to smell my fear. "There is no toilet talk," he whispered. "Just come." My chest tightened. I could not scream. If I screamed, the whole church would turn. But I was not sure who would help me. Some people in that church were pretending to cry. Some people were part of this. And even if someone tried to help, these men might still win. So I did what I have done for many years. I acted calm. I acted slow. I acted harmless. That is one thing people forget about grandmas. We look weak, but we watch everything. We notice everything. We survive. I lowered my head and said, "Okay. Let me just get my handbag." I left it with Auntie Rose. The man's smile faded a little. "You don't need it." I smiled back, small and polite. "I need my phone," I said. "My children may call. Please. 1 minute." He hesitated. That tiny hesitation was my window. I turned slowly, like I was obeying, and I began to walk back toward the seats. They followed behind me, not touching me yet, but close, too close. As I walked, I looked ahead, not behind. I kept my face like a tired old widow, but inside my head, my mind was running. The side door was locked. The main door had men watching. So what now? Then I remembered something. Behind the choir area, there was a small room. It held old chairs, hymn books, and sometimes the children waited there during long services. There was also a back exit from that room that led to a narrow path behind the church. Most people did not know it. But I knew it. Because years ago, when I was younger, I cleaned this church sometimes. I walked slowly toward Auntie Rose. She looked up at me, surprised. "Mercy, are you okay?" she whispered. I gave her a weak smile and held out my hand. "My purse," I whispered. She handed it to me. The men in suits stood behind me, watching. I opened my purse with shaking fingers, pretending I was only searching for tissues. But I was looking for my phone. I had to know who was texting me. I had to know if there was someone nearby who could help. I slid my phone into my palm, hidden by the purse. Then I made another normal old woman move. I leaned toward Auntie Rose and whispered, "Please, my stomach is turning. I need to step outside. Can you come with me?" Auntie Rose frowned. Yes, of course," she said, already standing. That was good. Because two people walking looks normal. And Auntie Rose was not a small woman. She was strong. She could shout if needed. The man in the suit stepped forward. "No," he said, firm. "She goes alone." Auntie Rose blinked. "Alone? Why?" she asked. He smiled again. "Security matters," he said. Auntie Rose looked confused. I squeezed her hand gently and whispered, "It's okay. I will be back." But I looked into her eyes in a way I hoped she would understand. Auntie Rose's mouth tightened. She did not understand fully, but she felt something was wrong. She sat down slowly, still watching me. I turned and started walking again. The men followed. One on my left now. One behind me, like I was a thief. We moved down the aisle, but instead of going toward the main door, I turned slightly toward the choir area. The man on my left noticed. He stepped closer. "Not that way," he said. I stopped and pointed ahead. "I need air," I said, and I touched my chest. "I can't pass through the crowd. Too many people. I will just sit in that small room for 1 minute." His eyes narrowed. "What small room?" "The choir room," I said. He looked toward the other man. They exchanged a quick look. Then the first man said, "Fine. 1 minute." We reached the small door beside the choir seats. I pushed it open. It creaked. Inside, it smelled like dust and old wood. There were stacked chairs and boxes. A small window near the top let in weak light. I stepped in. The men followed. My heart dropped again. I wanted them to stay outside. But they did not. The first man closed the door behind him. The room became smaller, more dangerous. Auntie Rose could not see me anymore. No one could. The first man spoke in a low voice. "Madam Mercy, let's stop the acting. We know you saw something." I swallowed. "I saw my husband's coffin," I said softly. "I saw people crying." He moved closer. "You saw him," he said. My whole body went cold. So they knew. They knew I saw Paul. My husband. Alive. He leaned forward. "You will tell us where he is," he said. "And you will do it now." The other man stepped toward the only exit, standing like a wall. I looked between them. If I told them I did not know, would they believe me? If I told them something else, would they hurt me? I had to buy time. Time can save a life. I took a slow breath. "I don't know what you are talking about," I said. The first man's smile disappeared. He grabbed my wrist. Not hard enough to leave a mark, but hard enough to warn me. "Old woman," he hissed. "Don't play with us." My breath caught. Then he did something worse. He reached into my purse. My heart jumped. He pulled out my phone. I tried to grab it back, but the second man held my shoulder down. The first man looked at the screen and frowned. He scrolled fast. Then he said, "Who is messaging you?" I stared at his face. I did not answer. He showed the phone to the second man. They read the last message. "Don't look around. Walk out like you're going to the toilet. Now." Their faces changed. Not fear exactly, but surprise. Like they did not expect someone was helping me. The first man's eyes became sharp. "Someone is playing a game," he said. He typed quickly. "WHO or you?" He sent it from my phone. My heart pounded so hard I felt dizzy. He was baiting the person. He wanted to catch them too. We waited. Seconds felt like minutes. Then a reply came. "Don't use her phone. If you touch her, you won't leave this place." The second man laughed, short and ugly. "Empty threats," he said. But the first man did not laugh. His eyes moved around the room. He was thinking. He was checking. He was suddenly less sure. And that gave me courage. Not loud courage. Quiet courage. The kind that rises when you realize you might die anyway. So you might as well fight smart. I lifted my chin and said, "Let me go." The first man stared at me. "You think you can command us?" he asked. "I think you are afraid," I said softly. His jaw tightened. He stepped close and whispered in my ear, "Listen carefully. Your husband owes people. Big people. He ran. That is why he is dead. But he can't run forever. We will find him. The question is, will you live long enough to see it?" My stomach twisted. So it was true. The funeral was a lie. A cover. Paul had faked his death. But why? And why show up in the crowd? Why risk that? Unless he wanted me to see him. Unless he wanted to warn me. Unless he wanted me to run. The first man stepped back and looked at the other man. "Take her out," he said. "Not through the main door. Too many eyes. We'll use the back." My blood turned to ice. The back. The back exit behind this room led to that narrow path. No people. No help. I tried to step away, but the second man grabbed my arm. "Move," he said. I planted my feet. "I can't," I said, suddenly loud, louder than I meant. The first man's eyes flashed. He raised his hand like he wanted to slap me. But he stopped. Because there was a sound outside. Footsteps. Fast. Then a knock on the door. Hard. Bang bang bang. A woman's voice shouted, "Mercy." Auntie Rose. Thank God. She had followed. She was not a foolish woman. The men froze. The first man quickly put my phone back into my purse, like he was trying to look normal. But nothing about this was normal. Auntie Rose knocked again. "Mercy, open this door." "Why did they follow you inside?" The first man's eyes narrowed. He whispered, "If you shout, you will regret it." Then he opened the door slightly and stepped out, closing it behind him so Auntie Rose could not see me fully. I heard him speak in a polite voice. Ma, calm down. She's fine. She felt sick. We are helping. Auntie Rose's voice was not calm. Helping? Who are you? I know everyone in this church and I don't know you. The man chuckled lightly. Madam, this is not the time for drama. Drama? Auntie Rose snapped. At a funeral. If she is sick, I will take her home. The man's voice became firm. No, she will come with us for a moment. Just to rest. Auntie Rose's voice rose. Mercy, she shouted again. Mercy, are you there? My throat tightened. If I answered, they might hurt me right there. If I did not answer, Auntie Rose might force the door open. I chose a third thing. I made a weak sound. Not a scream. A cough. A grandma cough. Enough to let Auntie Rose know I was inside. Auntie Rose reacted. I heard her. She said, open this door now. Then I heard another voice join. A man's voice, deeper. Is everything okay here? It was Deacon Thomas. He was one of the church leaders. He was old too, but still strong and respected. The first man in the suit spoke quickly. Yes, Deacon. Everything is fine. We are just assisting Madam Mercy. She felt dizzy. Deacon Thomas paused. Assisting her. He repeated. Who are you? The first man answered smoothly. Family friends. Deacon Thomas did not sound convinced. I am a family friend, he said. I have never seen you. Silence. Then the second man inside the room leaned close to me and whispered, if you want to leave alive, you will walk calmly and you will not speak. My heart pounded. Outside, Auntie Rose was still arguing. I heard her say, Mercy's husband was my neighbor for 20 years. Who are you people? The first man's voice turned colder. This does not concern you. Deacon Thomas spoke again, now firm. In this church, everything concerns me. Open the door fully. I heard movement. The first man hesitated. He did not want attention. Because attention is dangerous for people who want to kidnap a grandma quietly. Finally, the door opened wider. Light rushed into the room. Auntie Rose stood there, hands on her hips, face angry. Deacon Thomas stood beside her, eyes sharp. The first man stepped aside slightly, still trying to block their view. Auntie Rose pointed at me. Mercy, are you okay? Why are these men holding your arm? The second man immediately let go of me, acting innocent. No one is holding her, he said. But Auntie Rose had seen. Deacon Thomas stepped forward. Madam Mercy, he said gently, do you want to go home? My mouth opened. But I saw the first man's eyes. A warning. A promise of danger if I spoke. Then I remembered the text. Run. They're watching us. If I said, yes, and they blocked me, it could turn violent. If I said, no, I would be trapped later. I needed something smarter. I looked at Deacon Thomas and forced a weak smile. Deacon, I said softly, I just need some air. My chest is tight. Deacon Thomas nodded. Then you will come with me, he said. Not with strangers. The first man smiled thinly. Deacon, with respect, we have instructions. Instructions from who? Deacon Thomas asked. The first man's smile vanished. This is bigger than church matters. Deacon Thomas stepped closer, his voice low but strong. Nothing is bigger than a woman's safety. You will leave now. Auntie Rose nodded hard. Yes, she said. Leave. For a moment, I thought the men would fight. But they did not. They backed away slowly, smiling like they were still in control. The first man looked at me and said quietly, this is not over. Then they turned and walked out, moving fast, disappearing into the crowd like smoke. My knees nearly gave out. Auntie Rose grabbed my elbow. Mercy, she whispered, what is happening? Deacon Thomas looked at me with concern. Let's get you out, he said. Now. They walked me toward the front again, but not to sit. To leave. My heart pounded harder. Because I knew something else. If Paul wanted me to run, it means danger was already close. And those men would not give up. As we moved through the side aisle, I saw the main door again. The two men in dark suits were now standing closer together. They were watching me. One of them lifted his hand and touched his ear again. Then he looked outside through the open door. I followed his gaze and saw a black car parked close to the church gate. It had dark windows. It was waiting for me. Auntie Rose and Deacon Thomas did not see what I saw. They were focused on moving me gently, like I was only a widow feeling weak. But I was not weak. I was trapped. We reached the front entrance area. The church service was still going, but people had started to whisper and turn their heads. The men by the door stepped aside politely as Deacon Thomas approached, but their eyes were still sharp. Deacon Thomas spoke calmly. "Madam Mercy is going home. Please make space." One of the men smiled. "Of course, Deacon." He moved aside. Too easily. That made my stomach twist. It was a trick. Outside, the black car's door opened slightly. Just a little. Like a mouth opening. Ready to swallow. My phone buzzed again inside my purse. I pulled it out quickly, hiding it against my body. New message. "Don't go out the front. Go left. There's a fence gap behind the old water tank." My breath caught. Someone was still helping me. Someone who knew the church compound well. Someone close. Someone watching. I looked to the left. There was a small walkway that led around the church building, toward the old water tank behind the Sunday school rooms. Most people did not go there during a funeral. Deacon Thomas guided me forward. Auntie Rose held my other arm. We were almost at the front steps. One step outside, and the black car could grab me. I had to act now. I stopped suddenly and bent forward, clutching my stomach. "Oh," I groaned, loud enough. Auntie Rose panicked. "Mercy, are you okay?" I nodded weakly. I need the toilet," I said, breathing hard. "Please, not outside. Now." Deacon Thomas frowned. "The toilets are behind," he said. "Please," I whispered. "I can't hold it." Auntie Rose waved her hand. Take her," she told Deacon Thomas. Deacon Thomas nodded and turned us away from the door. The men in suits stiffened. Their eyes followed. One of them took a step forward, like he wanted to stop us. Deacon Thomas turned his head sharply. "Stay back," he said. The man paused. Deacon Thomas's respect in the church still had power. Just enough. We moved quickly down the side walkway. My legs hurt, but fear gave me strength. Auntie Rose kept talking. "Mercy, what is going on? Those men looked like police but not police." I did not answer. I could not. Not yet. We passed the Sunday school rooms. The old water tank was ahead, rusted and tall. Behind it was the fence. The message said there was a gap. My phone buzzed again. "Now, don't let them follow you." I looked back. Far behind, I saw one of the suit men leaving the main door area, walking fast toward us. He was following. My heart jumped. I had only seconds. I grabbed Auntie Rose's hand and whispered, "Auntie, trust me. Please, I need you to do something." Auntie Rose looked shocked. "What?" I pointed ahead. "Deacon, please," I said, louder, "I need water. My mouth is dry. There is a tap near the Sunday school room. Please." Deacon Thomas hesitated. "There is," he said. "Auntie Rose, wait with her. I will get water." Auntie Rose nodded, confused. Deacon Thomas hurried toward the tap around the corner. Now it was just me and Auntie Rose. And the suit man was coming closer. Auntie Rose turned to me. "Mercy, talk to me," she said. "You're scaring me." I took her face in my hands. "Auntie," I whispered, "listen carefully. When I run, you must scream and call Deacon Thomas. Don't follow me, just scream." Auntie Rose's eyes widened. "Run. Mercy, where are you running to?" I swallowed. "I don't have time," I said. "Please, trust me." Then I heard the suit man's voice behind us. "Madam Mercy." He was close now. Too close. I looked at the fence gap behind the water tank. It was there. A broken place where a person could squeeze through if they were desperate. I squeezed Auntie Rose's hand once. Then I ran. Yes, this old grandma ran. My black shoes slipped a little on the dirt, but I kept going. I reached the water tank, turned behind it, and squeezed toward the fence gap. I heard Auntie Rose scream behind me. "Help! Help! Deacon!" I heard footsteps pounding. The suit man was running too. I pushed my shoulder through the fence gap. The wire scratched my arm. Pain flashed. But I did not stop. I squeezed through, my dress catching on the wire. I yanked it free and stumbled onto the other side. Behind the fence was a narrow dusty path that led to a small road behind the church. My heart hammered. I ran down the path. I did not look back. I could hear shouting behind me. I could hear someone struggling with the fence. Then my phone buzzed again. A final message appeared. "Keep running. Don't trust anyone, even in your family. I almost dropped the phone. Even in my family. What did that mean? My mind spun, but my legs kept moving. I reached the small road behind the church. There were a few houses and shops. People were outside, talking, selling snacks, living normal life. They did not know a grandma was running for her life. Then a white van turned the corner slowly and stopped near me. The side door slid open. Inside, I saw a woman. Lydia. Her face was serious. "Get in," she said. My body froze. Lydia was part of this danger. But also, she was the only person who had spoken truth to me before. And my texter said, "Don't trust anyone." My heart pounded so hard it hurt. Behind me, I heard the sound of footsteps getting closer. The suit man had gotten through. I had seconds again. Lydia leaned forward and spoke fast. "If you don't get in, they will take you. If they take you, you will never see tomorrow. Get in." My legs moved before my mind could decide. I grabbed the van door and climbed in. Lydia pulled me inside and slammed the door shut. The van started moving immediately. I fell onto the seat, breathing hard, my chest burning. I looked through the small back window. I saw the suit man reach the road. He stopped and stared as the van sped away. He lifted his phone, and he smiled, like a man who still believed he would win. Lydia looked at me. "You saw him," she said. I swallowed. "Yes," I whispered. "Paul. He was in the church." Lydia nodded like she already knew. "He wanted you to see him," she said. "That was his mistake." "My mistake?" I asked, confused. Lydia's eyes stayed on the road. "Because now they know you are important," she said. I hugged my purse tighter. "Where are you taking me?" I asked. Lydia did not answer immediately. The van turned onto a rough road. Trees and old buildings passed by. Then she spoke. "To the only place you might survive," she said. "And where is that?" I asked. Lydia's voice lowered. "To someone who has been watching you for a long time." My skin prickled. "Who?" I asked. Lydia glanced at me, and the look in her eyes made me feel smaller than I had ever felt. "Your son," she said. My stomach dropped. "My son," I repeated. Lydia nodded once. "He is not who you think he is," she said. The world tilted. My son. My own child. My phone buzzed again, one last vibration, like a warning bell. New message from the unknown number. "She's taking you to them. Jump out. Now." My breath stopped. I stared at the message. Then I stared at Lydia. The van was moving fast. The doors were locked, and my own son's name was suddenly inside this danger like a knife. I did not know who to believe. I did not know who was hunting me. I did not know if my husband was saving me or using me. And then Lydia reached into her handbag and pulled out something that made my blood turn cold. A small pistol. She placed it on her lap like it was normal. Then she said, calmly, "Mercy, if you try to run again, I will have to stop you." My whole body went stiff. Because now I knew the truth. I was not being rescued. I was being delivered. The gun on Lydia's lap did not shine. It did not look new or powerful. But it was real. And that was enough. I stopped breathing for a moment. The van kept moving, bouncing slightly on the rough road. Trees passed by. Old buildings passed by. Life went on outside like nothing was wrong. Inside the van, everything was wrong. "Please," I said softly, my voice shaking. "There is no need for that." Lydia did not look at me. She kept her eyes on the road. "I don't want to hurt you, Mercy," she said. "But I will not let you ruin this." "Ruin what?" I asked. She tightened her jaw. "Things that are already in motion." That answer told me nothing. Or maybe it told me everything. I swallowed and looked down at my purse. My phone was still inside. The last message burned in my mind. "She's taking you to them. Jump out. Now. Jump out." The van was moving fast. If I jumped, I could break my bones. Or worse. But if I stayed, Lydia herself said I would not be allowed to run again. I chose the safest thing for that moment. I stayed calm. Old women know how to stay calm even when the world is falling apart. I folded my hands on my lap and said, "If you are taking me somewhere, at least tell me why." Lydia was quiet for a long time. Then she sighed. "You deserve to know something," she said. "But not everything." "That is not fair," I said. She glanced at me quickly. Nothing about this is fair. The van turned sharply onto a smaller road. The houses became fewer. Bushes grew thicker. The road narrowed. My heart sank. We were leaving the town. Lydia, I said, trying to keep my voice steady, where exactly are we going? She slowed the van a little. Not to your son's house, she said. My chest tightened. You said my son. I said he is involved, she cut in. That does not mean he is waiting for you with open arms. I leaned back against the seat. My son, Daniel. The boy I carried for 9 months. The boy I fed with my own hands. The boy I prayed for every night. What could he possibly be involved in? My mind went back many years. Daniel was always smart. Too smart. He asked many questions. He wanted more than our small town could give. Paul loved him, but Paul also feared him a little. You don't understand how the world works, Paul used to say to Daniel. Daniel would smile and say, you don't understand how it is changing. Daniel left home young. He said he wanted a better life. We were proud. But after he left, money started coming. Too much money. Daniel sent gifts. Big gifts. Phones. A television. A new fridge. Paul never asked where the money came from. That should have been my first warning. The van slowed down again. We were approaching a large old compound with a tall gate. The gate was partly open. 2 men stood outside. They were not wearing suits. They wore plain clothes. But their eyes were the same kind of eyes. Watching. Measuring. The van drove in. The gate closed behind us with a heavy metal sound. Clang. That sound felt final, like a door closing on my old life. The van stopped in front of a low building. Lydia turned off the engine. She picked up the gun and slipped it into her handbag. Then she turned to me. Listen carefully, she said. If you do exactly what you are told, you will not be hurt. I laughed. A dry, sad laugh. That is what everyone says before someone gets hurt. She did not smile. Come, she said. She opened her door and stepped out. I followed slowly. My legs felt weak, but I forced them to move. Inside the compound, everything was quiet. Too quiet. No children playing. No radios. No laughter. Just silence. We entered the building. Inside was a long hallway with peeling paint. At the end of the hallway was a door. Lydia stopped there. She turned and looked at me. This is where your questions begin, she said. She knocked once. The door opened, and I stopped breathing. Daniel stood there. My son. Older now. Thinner. Sharper. But it was him. Mom, he said softly. For 1 second, my heart jumped with hope. Maybe Lydia was wrong. Maybe the text message was wrong. Maybe this was all a misunderstanding. I stepped forward. Daniel, I whispered. He smiled. Not fully. Not warmly. Then I saw what was behind him. 2 men. 1 woman. A table. And on that table were papers, phones, and photographs. Photographs of Paul. Photographs of me. Photographs of our house. My knees nearly buckled. Daniel noticed. He stepped forward and caught my arm. Careful, he said. Sit down. He guided me to a chair inside the room. The door closed behind us. Lydia stayed inside. The room smelled like sweat and paper. Daniel sat across from me. He folded his hands like a man in charge. Not like my son. Mom, he said gently, you were not supposed to run. I stared at him. You knew, I said. You knew about your father. He nodded once. Yes. My chest burned. You knew he was alive, I said. Yes. You knew about the funeral, I said. Yes. Each answer felt like a stone thrown at my heart. Why? I asked. Daniel leaned back. Because my father made mistakes, he said. Big ones. What kind of mistakes? I asked. Daniel looked at Lydia, then back at me. He tried to leave, Daniel said. With something that did not belong to him. My hands trembled. What thing? I asked. Daniel smiled slightly. Information, he said. My stomach dropped. Paul was not just hiding. He was holding something dangerous. And you? I asked. What is your part in this? Daniel's smile faded. My part, he said, is cleaning up. The words hurt more than shouting would have. Cleaning up, I repeated. Yes, he said, making sure loose ends don't talk. I stared at him. Am I a loose end? I asked. Daniel did not answer right away. That silence was my answer. Tears burned my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. I raised you better than this, I said quietly. Daniel's face tightened. You raised me to survive, he said. This is survival. No, I said. This is fear. Daniel stood up suddenly. Enough, he snapped. You were here because you saw something you should not have seen. I saw my husband, I said. At his own funeral. Daniel looked away. That was foolish of him, he muttered. So he is alive, I said again. Where is he? Daniel looked back at me slowly. Safe, he said. From who? I asked. From the people who want him dead, Daniel replied. And me? I asked. Am I safe? Daniel hesitated. Right now, he said. That was not comforting. My phone buzzed suddenly in my purse. Everyone froze. Lydia's hand moved toward her bag. Daniel's eyes sharpened. Give me the phone, he said. I held my purse tighter. No, I said. Daniel stood and walked toward me. Mom, he said, voice calm but cold, don't make this hard. I slowly took out my phone. A new message glowed on the screen. They're lying. Your son is not the boss. He is the bait. My breath caught. Bait. Daniel reached for the phone. I pulled it back. Who is sending you messages? He demanded. I looked at him. At least someone who wants me alive, I said. Daniel's face darkened. He turned to Lydia. Find the source, he said. Lydia nodded and stepped out of the room. Daniel turned back to me. You should not trust anonymous messages, he said. Maybe, I replied. But I trust my instincts. Daniel leaned close. Your instincts got you here. Your lies put me here, I said. His eyes flashed. You think this is easy for me? He asked. You think I wanted my father to become a problem? Problem, I repeated. He is your father. Daniel's voice rose. He endangered everything. The room fell silent. Then Daniel took a breath and lowered his voice. Mom, he said, help me. I blinked. Help you? I asked. Yes, he said. Convince him to come back. Convince him to return what he took. And if I don't? I asked. Daniel looked at the door. Then back at me. Then things will get worse. How? I asked. He leaned closer and whispered, for you. My heart sank. I closed my eyes briefly. This was the lesson of my life coming back to me. Love without boundaries becomes a weapon. When I opened my eyes, I said, I don't know where Paul is. Daniel studied my face. He was searching for truth. I was telling it. He stepped back. Then we wait, he said. Wait for what? I asked. For him to make another move, Daniel replied. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed through the building. A gunshot. Everyone froze. Then another bang. Shouts followed. Footsteps ran down the hallway. The door burst open. Lydia rushed in, breathing hard. They found us, she shouted. They are inside the compound. Daniel's face changed. Fear flashed. Who? He asked. Lydia looked at me, then back at Daniel. The people your father stole from, she said. My heart pounded. Daniel grabbed his phone. Lock the exits, he ordered. Another gunshot rang out, closer now. Glass shattered somewhere. The building shook. Daniel looked at me. His eyes were no longer in control. They want him, he said. But they will take you if they can't find him. The door behind us rattled as someone tried to force it open. Heavy footsteps thundered closer. Daniel grabbed my arm. Come, he said. We are moving you. Where? I asked. He did not answer. The door burst open. Men rushed in, shouting. Guns raised. Daniel shoved me toward a side door. Run, he shouted. But this time, I did not know who to run from. Or who to run with. And as the room filled with chaos, I heard a voice I never expected to hear again. Paul's voice. Calling my name. Mercy. When I heard Paul call my name, my whole body froze. Not because I was surprised. But because his voice sounded wrong. It sounded rushed. Sharp. Afraid. Mercy. He shouted again. The room was filled with noise now. Men shouting. Feet running. Someone screaming orders. The smell of gun smoke burned my nose. Daniel grabbed my arm hard. Don't listen to him, he yelled. But it was too late. I already had. Paul's voice came again, closer this time. Mercy, this way. I turned my head toward the sound. Through the open side door, past the chaos, I saw him. My husband. Alive. His hair was messier than before. His face thinner. his eyes wide with panic. He was holding a small black bag tightly against his chest. Behind him, 2 men chased. Everything inside me broke and came together at the same time. "Paul!" I shouted. Daniel cursed loudly. "Dad, stop!" Daniel yelled. Paul stopped running for 1 second. He looked at Daniel, and the look on his face was not love. It was regret. "Son," Paul said loudly, "you should never have brought her into this." Daniel's face twisted. "You should never have stolen from them." Daniel shouted back. The men chasing Paul raised their guns. "Drop the bag," one of them screamed. Paul looked at me again. "Mercy," he said, softer now, "I'm sorry." Those words cut deeper than anything. Sorry was not enough. But sorry was all we had left. A gun fired. The bullet hit the wall beside Paul, spraying dust. Paul moved again, fast. Daniel pulled me back. "Move," he yelled. He dragged me through the side door. We ran down a narrow hallway. Lydia appeared from nowhere. "This way," she shouted. She pushed open another door that led to a back staircase. We started going down fast. My legs screamed with pain, but fear pushed me forward. Behind us, footsteps thundered. Someone shouted, "Don't let them escape." The staircase door slammed shut behind us. Daniel locked it quickly and fired his gun once at the lock. Metal broke. The door jammed. We kept moving. At the bottom of the stairs was a dark storage room. Boxes everywhere. Old files. Dust. Daniel stopped and turned to me. "Mom," he said quickly, "you have to listen to me now." I stared at him. "Why?" I asked. "So you can lie again." His face cracked. "I lied to protect you," he said. "No," I said. "You lied to protect yourself." Lydia interrupted. "We don't have time," she said. "They will break through." Paul burst into the room suddenly, breathing hard. He slammed the door behind him. For 1 second, it was just the 4 of us. My family. Broken. Alive. Paul dropped the black bag on a table. He looked at me like a man seeing home after a war. "I never wanted you involved," he said. "And yet here I am," I replied. Daniel crossed his arms. "Give it to me," he said to Paul. "Now." Paul shook his head. "No." Daniel's voice rose. "This ends today." Paul leaned forward. "This ends when the truth ends," he said. Lydia stepped between them. "Enough," she snapped. "They are seconds away." A loud crash shook the room. The door upstairs was breaking. Paul grabbed my hands. "Mercy," he said urgently, "listen to me. Whatever happens, do not trust Daniel." Daniel exploded. "You see," he shouted. "He's still lying to you." Paul ignored him. "They will use him," Paul said. "They already have." Daniel's eyes burned. "You ruined everything," he said to Paul. "You should have stayed dead." The words hit like poison. I stepped forward. "Stop," I shouted. Everyone froze. I looked at both men. "My husband and my son," I said. "Both of you chose secrets over truth. And now you are surprised it became dangerous." Silence fell. Then Lydia spoke quietly. "They are inside the building," she said. "We have one exit left." She pointed to a small metal door at the back of the storage room. "Where does it lead?" I asked. "To an underground passage," Lydia replied. "Old, narrow, not safe." Paul nodded. "That's the way," he said. Daniel hesitated. "If we split," he said, "they won't know who to follow." Paul shook his head. "They will follow the bag," he said. Another crash. Closer. Paul picked up the bag again. "I'll draw them away," he said. "No," I said quickly. "You won't leave again." Paul looked at me with sad eyes. "Mercy," he whispered, "this is the only way you live." Daniel stepped forward. "I'll go with him," he said suddenly. Paul looked shocked. "You?" Paul asked. Daniel nodded. "I started this," he said. "I'll end it." For the first time, I saw fear in Paul's eyes for his son. "Daniel," I said, my voice breaking. He looked at me. "I'm sorry, Mom," he said softly. "I really am." Another gunshot rang out upstairs. Lydia grabbed my arm. "We move now," she said. Paul squeezed my hands once. "Run and don't stop," he told me. Daniel picked up a second bag from the floor. "Follow the noise," he said to Lydia. "They'll think it's him." Lydia nodded. Paul and Daniel ran toward the staircase, shouting and kicking boxes to make noise. Men shouted above. Gunfire followed them. The building shook. Lydia pulled me toward the metal door. I hesitated. What if they die? I asked. Lydia did not slow. If you stay, she said, you will. She opened the metal door. Cold air rushed out. A dark tunnel stretched ahead. It smelled like earth and rust. We stepped inside. The door slammed shut behind us. The tunnel was narrow. I could barely see. We moved fast, stumbling, my hands brushing wet walls. Behind us, distant shouts echoed. Then silence. After what felt like forever, we reached a ladder. Lydia climbed first. I followed, shaking. We came out behind an abandoned warehouse. The night air hit my face. I gasped. Sirens wailed far away. Lydia pulled me forward. We can't stay, she said. We ran again. My legs felt like fire. Finally, we stopped behind a parked truck. Lydia leaned against it, breathing hard. I bent over, hands on my knees. My heart hurt. My chest hurt. My soul hurt. Did they make it? I asked. Lydia did not answer. Her silence was heavy. Then my phone buzzed. One message. Unknown number. It's not over. They let them go. You were the key. I stared at the screen. The key. I whispered. Lydia looked at me sharply. What did it say? She asked. I slowly raised my head. And in that moment, I understood something terrifying. Paul did not show himself at the funeral to save me. He showed himself to make sure they noticed me. I was not the mistake. I was the message. And now, every side wanted me alive. For different reasons. And I had no idea which one was worse. The night felt colder after that message. You were the key. Those words stayed in my head like a drum beating again and again. Lydia looked at me, waiting. What did it say? She asked again. I did not answer immediately. I was tired, not just in my body. In my heart. I slowly put the phone back into my purse. It said this is not over, I replied. It said I am the key. Lydia's face changed. Not shock, not fear, relief. That scared me more than anything else. So it's true, she said quietly. What is true? I asked. She looked around the empty street, then leaned closer to me. Your husband did not steal money, she said. He stole access. Access to what? I asked. She shook her head. Not what. Who? My stomach tightened. Who? I repeated. Lydia took a deep breath. Mercy, she said, your husband was never the real target. I felt dizzy. Then why did all this happen? I asked. Because Paul learned something he should not have learned, Lydia said. Something about how power really moves. Who controls who? Who pretends to be small but is actually dangerous? I thought of Daniel, my son. Smart, quiet, ambitious, always watching. You mean Daniel, I said. Lydia did not answer. That was answer enough. My legs felt weak again. You told me my son was bait, I said slowly. Then you said he was involved. Which is the truth? Lydia looked away. Both, she said. We stayed quiet for a moment. A car passed in the distance. A dog barked. Normal sounds in a world that suddenly felt unreal. Paul knew, Lydia continued. He knew your son had become part of something very big. Something very dirty. I closed my eyes. I remembered Daniel's gifts. The money. The confidence. Paul's fear. He tried to stop him, Lydia said. Not as a father. As a witness. Witness to what? I asked. To a network, she replied. People who hide behind businesses, charities, even churches. People who erase problems instead of solving them. My chest hurt. So Paul faked his death, I said. To escape them. Yes, Lydia said. But also to test them. To test them, I repeated. Yes, she said. To see who would move. Who would panic. Who would reveal themselves. I laughed bitterly. And I was the test, I said. Lydia nodded. They watch widows, she said. They underestimate grandmothers. They think grief makes people blind. She looked at me carefully. But Paul knew you were not blind. I thought of the funeral. Paul's smile. The finger to his lips. The message. Run. He wanted me to run, I whispered. Yes, Lydia said. Because once you ran, the real game began. I felt anger rise. Then he used me, I said. Lydia did not deny it. He loved you, she said. But love does not stop desperate men from making cruel choices. Silence fell again. Then I asked the question that had been burning inside me. Is my son a monster? Lydia looked at me for a long time. No, she said finally. But he chose monsters as allies. That is worse, I said. She nodded. Sometimes, she agreed. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was a call. Unknown number. Lydia stiffened. Don't answer, she said. I looked at the screen. My heart knew before my ears did. I answered. Mercy, Paul's voice said. Alive. Breathing. I felt my knees weaken. Paul, I whispered. I don't have much time, he said. They let us go on purpose. I know, I replied. They said I am the key. Paul was quiet for a second. Then he said, I hoped they wouldn't figure it out so fast. What am I the key to? I asked. To truth, Paul replied. And to Daniel. Lydia leaned closer, listening. Paul, I said, my voice shaking, our son is involved. Deeply. I know, Paul said. That's why I did all this. To destroy him, I asked. No, Paul said quickly. To save him. I laughed softly, full of pain. You almost got me killed, I said. That is not saving. I know, Paul said. And I will carry that guilt forever. I swallowed. Then explain, I said. Paul spoke slowly, carefully. Daniel is powerful because people think he has no weakness, he said. But he does. What? I asked. You, Paul replied. My breath caught. He listens to you, Paul continued. Not openly, not proudly, but you are the only voice that still reaches him. That is why they need me alive, I said. Yes, Paul said. You were leverage, not because you were weak, but because you were loved. Lydia stepped back slightly, crossing her arms. Paul's voice lowered. They want you to pull him back in line, he said. Or pull him out. And if I refuse? I asked. Paul did not answer immediately. That is when things get ugly, he said. I closed my eyes. My whole life, I tried to keep peace. To avoid conflict. To love quietly. But quiet love had brought me here. Paul, I said, opening my eyes, where are you now? Safe for the moment, he said. But not for long. Are you hurt? I asked. No, he replied. But Daniel is. My heart tightened. What do you mean? I asked. He was shot, Paul said. Not badly, but enough to slow him down. I covered my mouth. Is he alive? I asked. Yes, Paul said. And angry. That scared me more than if he were dead. Angry people make fast, cruel choices. Mercy, Paul said, you have to decide. Decide what? I asked. Who you stand with, he said. And what you are willing to lose. The call ended. I stood there, staring at my phone. Lydia spoke. They will come again, she said. Soon. What do they want me to do? I asked. To talk, she replied. To persuade. To calm. And if I don't? I asked. Lydia's eyes were serious. Then they will force the issue, she said. Through Daniel. My chest tightened. My own child, I whispered. Lydia nodded. That is why this is effective, she said. I straightened my back. Something inside me changed. I was tired of running. Tired of being pulled like a rope in other people's war. I will talk, I said. Lydia looked surprised. Really? She asked. Yes, I replied. But not the way they expect. She studied my face. What do you mean? I said calmly, I am not their key. I am their mirror. Lydia frowned. You plan to confront him, she said. Yes, I said. As his mother. That is dangerous, she warned. So is silence, I replied. I took a deep breath. For years, I thought being quiet was wisdom, I said. Now I know it was fear. Lydia nodded slowly. I will arrange the meeting, she said. Good, I replied. Then I added, and Lydia. Yes, if anything happens to me, I said, tell the world. She looked at me, surprised. Tell them what? She asked. I looked up at the dark sky. The truth, I said. That love without truth becomes control. And power without conscience destroys families. Lydia was silent for a long moment. Then she nodded. We began to walk again, toward a waiting car I had not noticed before. As I got in, my phone buzzed one last time. Unknown number. A final message appeared. Tomorrow. He will choose. So will you. I closed my eyes. Tomorrow, I would face my son. Not as a victim. Not as bait. But as a mother who had finally learned that love must sometimes stand firm, even when it breaks your heart. And whatever happened next would decide not just my family's future, but who we truly were. The next morning came too quietly. No birds, no prayers, just a heavy silence that felt like the world was holding its breath. Lydia drove me to the meeting place without speaking. It was an old guest house at the edge of the city, the kind people use when they do not want records. No signboard, no name, just walls and guards who did not ask questions. As I stepped out of the car, my hands were steady. That surprised me. Fear had burned itself out. Only clarity remained. Inside the building, the air smelled of dust and old furniture. Lydia stopped at a door and turned to me. "This is your last chance to walk away," she said. I shook my head. "No," I replied. "This is my first chance to stand." She opened the door. Daniel was inside. He was sitting at a table, his arm wrapped in a white bandage. His face looked tired, older than his years. The confidence was still there, but it was cracked now. For the first time since all this began, he stood when he saw me. "Mom," he said softly. I walked in alone. The door closed behind me. No guards, no guns visible, just a mother and her son. I sat across from him. For a long moment, we did not speak. Then I said, "Your father is alive." Daniel nodded. "I know. You knew from the beginning," I said. "Yes. You let them fake his death," I said. "Yes. You let me cry," I said. Daniel swallowed. "Yes. That hurt more than everything else." I leaned forward. "Look at me," I said. He did. Really looked. Not as a tool, not as leverage, as his mother. "I did not come here to beg," I said. "I did not come here to threaten. I came to tell you the truth you keep running from." Daniel's jaw tightened. "I know my truth," he said. "No," I replied calmly. "You know your ambition, not your truth." His eyes flickered. "You think power makes you safe," I continued. "But power without limits makes you hunted. Look at you, shot, surrounded by people who would trade your life for convenience." Daniel said nothing. "You say this is survival," I said. "But survival that eats its own family is not survival. It is decay." His hands clenched. "You don't understand the world I'm in," he said. "I understand enough," I replied. "Enough to know this ends one of two ways." He looked up. "Which ways?" he asked. I spoke slowly. "You keep going. You sacrifice your father. You use me. You win short term. And one day, you die alone, remembered as a man who had everything except peace." Daniel's face hardened. "And the other?" he asked. "You stop," I said. "You tell the truth. You give back what does not belong to you. You face consequences. You lose power. But you keep your soul." Silence filled the room. Then Daniel laughed quietly. "You think they will let me walk away?" he asked. "No," I said. "I think they will try to destroy you." He stared at me. "And you still ask me to stop?" "Yes," I said. "Because destruction is already here. You are just pretending you control it." Daniel looked down at his bandaged arm. Then he asked the question I did not expect. "Would you still love me?" he asked. "If I lose everything?" Tears burned my eyes, but my voice did not shake. "I loved you before you had anything," I said. "And I will love you after you lose it. But I will not protect what is destroying you." Daniel closed his eyes. For a long time, he did not move. Then he opened them, and something in him changed. Not fully, but enough. "Dad wanted to expose them," he said quietly. I stopped him. "Yes," I said. "I thought I was protecting us," he said. "I thought I was smarter." "That is how pride sounds," I replied gently. Daniel breathed out slowly. "They are listening," he said. "I know," I answered. He reached into his pocket and placed a small drive on the table. "This is everything," he said. "Names, accounts, routes." My heart skipped. "You will be killed," I said. He nodded. "Maybe," he said. "But not today." He slid the drive toward me. "They won't touch you if you have this," he said. "You become untouchable." I did not take it. "I don't want protection," I said. "I want an ending." Daniel pushed the drive closer. "This is the only ending that stops them," he said. I finally took it. At that moment, the door opened. Lydia stepped in. She looked at Daniel, then at the drive. Her eyes widened. "You chose," she said. Daniel nodded. "Yes," he replied. Lydia spoke quietly into her phone. It's done. Within minutes, the building filled with noise. Sirens. Voices. Footsteps. Not the men in dark suits. Different ones. Official ones. Daniel stood. They will arrest me, he said. Yes, I replied. He looked at me one last time. I'm scared, he admitted. I stood too and held his face in my hands like I did when he was a child. Good, I said softly. Fear is the beginning of wisdom. They took him away without drama. Without violence. Just handcuffs and quiet words. Later that night, I sat alone in a safe house. Hall came to see me. He looked smaller, older, free. You saved him, he said. No, I replied. He saved himself. What about us? Hall asked. I looked at him. There is no us, I said gently. Not after this. Some truths end marriages. Hall nodded, tears in his eyes. I understand, he said. Weeks later, the story broke. Names fell. Power collapsed. People disappeared from headlines and into courtrooms. I went back to my small house. I planted flowers. I slept. I breathed. People still call me Grandma Mercy. They think I survived because I was lucky. They are wrong. I survived because I stopped being silent. And if there is one lesson my story leaves behind, it is this. Love without truth is dangerous. Silence does not keep you safe. And sometimes, the bravest thing a grandmother can do is stand up, speak clearly, and let the world change.